Yesterday, we talked about the false flag psyop that went on in Bondi Beach, Australia yesterday, and we also talked about Christian Zionism. Well, today I'm back to talk more about the Bondi Beach incident as it's been announced that the Mossad from Israel is actually going to join the investigation in Australia. Isn't that wonderful? You know, the actual group that helped perpetrate this whole attack, yeah, they're the ones that are going to be helping the Australians investigate, right? In quotation marks. So the Mossad has officially joined the investigation today to assist the Australian authorities following the terrorist attacks. The agency will examine who carried out the attack, whether anyone directed or supported the attackers, and if it was a lone wolf operation. Mossad will also, and then you can look at more if you like. I'll put the link up from this website at Winter Watch. But yeah, false flag indeed. Check this out. Let's take a look at makeup being applied to one of the so-called victims. And if you think it was AI, this image was uploaded and tested, and it says here this media is likely original and not generated by AI. And you can see the nice makeup kit they have here, getting everybody ready to be victims. So, once again, the Mossad's up to his usual tricks. But of course, they're going to lead the investigation, so it's all going to be fine, right? So, wow. And this is from Information Liberation. Found this on Revelations and Rabbit Holes. Netanyahu suggests that Israel expects a crackdown on anti-Semitism from each of your governments in the West and elsewhere. This is what we said was coming yesterday when we talked about this in the video. That's exactly what I said. This was all orchestrated to generate more free speech crackdowns, not just in Australia, but around the world, especially in the West. And that's what's happening as of, well, it started happening right away. But I knew they'd be calling for more of this today, more censorship, more crackdowns on social media, and that's what they're doing. In fact, here's Rabbi Yehuda Kaplan, or Kaploon, Trump's pick for combating anti-Semitism, as he announced a massive censorship on Americans criticizing Israel. He says the State Department is going to have a whole division for fighting anti-Semitism and changing social media algorithms with the help of tech leaders. Let's just go ahead and listen to this real quick.
The president is sending a very strong message. Think about it. Ironically, I get off a plane. I am the president's representative, and I am walking off with a yarmulke, and I have kosher food, and embassies will have kosher food. It is a game changer. The appointment is a game changer. And it's not about history. It's about education. And how do we educate? Indonesia has 350 million Muslims living in the country. How do we change their textbooks? How do we hold the people in Gaza accountable that if America is paying for UN textbooks and supposedly the changes are made, why are those textbooks not being used, and why are they using their old textbooks?
So they want to brainwash them with the textbooks beginning in, kindergarten, I imagine.
We have to teach people it's not okay to educate your kids to be a martyr. Okay? And we have to hold those.
And maybe you guys should educate your children that it's not okay to commit genocide. Just saying.
Countries accountable. How do we battle anti-Semitism on the internet? How are we doing better on algorithms? What companies can we work with? We are going to have a whole division within the office of the Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism that is going to work on technology and working with the greatest leaders in technology, many of whom are Jewish and have offered their assistance. The office is going to be revamped entirely to be one of the highest profile offices in the State Department, because that's what the secretary wants and that's what the president wants. So we are going to have a very, very strong mandate on education, on protecting people, and how are we able to make a huge difference in combating what goes on
the internet and on social media. I'll just finish the sentence for him since it was kind of cut off there. But yeah, they're looking to, this office in the State Department. So it's an official part of the U.S. government now. And the State Department's being turned inward and focused on the American people now. And they're not just going to come after the people that are supporting Palestine right now. No, they're not just going to come after those folks. They're going to come after anybody that disagrees with Trump as well, and anybody who disagrees with the genocide going on in Gaza right now, being committed by people like this who are part of the synagogue of Satan. Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9. We talked about that yesterday as well. That's who this person is, and that's who he represents. The Zionists. And then we have this one saying basically the same thing. Another chief rabbi, this time in Great Britain. And he's calling for mass censorship on citizens who speak against Israel. They won't have any problem with that in Great Britain. They're censoring everybody about everything anyway. We have to crack down on hate speech, he says, in a far more forceful and emphatic way than we previously have been. Almost what this guy said. So they're marching in unison around the world, and this is what we talked about yesterday. Here we go.
It was the kind of thing we knew was inevitable. We were praying, hoping that it would never happen. But no surprise because of the tone on the streets within our societies, with the hatred that is being expressed to the Jewish state, to Jews and to Judaism, and therefore
because they're murderers and liars and deceivers and thieves.
What's happening around us is inspiring some people to translate hate speech into hate action. My own story is not really so important. One of our children called me to say, "Have you heard?" And then there were some agonizing hours, actually, to discover what really transpired. Who was this an attack on? Who was involved? Who was implicated? How many were dead? How many were injured? But deep down, we knew this was an attack on Jewish people for the sin of openly celebrating their Jewishness.
No, if it were an actual random mass shooting, which it was not, it was all planned out by Mossad and others. But anyway, if it were, they would be upset with you because of the genocide you're committing in Gaza. And they never, ever, ever want to cover that. It's just unreal. It's like, oh, that's not happening. No, that's not real.
Time and time again, that's what we have experienced. But you know what? We saw those scenes at Bondi Beach, far more people than the first night. And that's how it's going to be here in the UK and right around the world. We're strong, we're tenacious, and we will celebrate our faith without fear.
You said there about hate speech being translated into action.
But unless you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and your Messiah, you're never going to be reconciled to God. So your faith is worthless.
And I just wondered if you could expand a bit on that. There has been some criticism, obviously, of the Australian political response to it, but particularly here in the United Kingdom, what is your message to political leaders, to the Prime Minister?
We have to crack down on hate speech in a far more forceful and emphatic way than we previously have been doing. By the way,
so in other words, now he wants to start busting skulls and smashing faces with the jack boots.
The Prime Minister called me yesterday to express his solidarity and support, which I genuinely appreciate. Let's take, for example, cries such as "From the River to the Sea" or "Globalize the Intifada." What does globalize the Intifada mean? It means what happened at Eton Park Synagogue in Manchester and Yom Kippur. It means what happened on Bondi Beach. The time has come once and for all not to allow such rhetoric to poison the minds of people.
Meanwhile, they're the ones creating the whole scenario themselves. Unreal. The way they can sit there and lie with straight faces and not flinch whatsoever at all. It's incredible. But if you're born and raised that way, I guess that's what you do. It comes naturally then, I guess. But anyway, they're cracking down on all kinds of free speech because of this, just like we figured they would. And now comes this part, which I was going to talk about yesterday, but just didn't get a chance. There was so much going on. So we have this, a newly leaked memo. This was sent to me by a subscriber a few days ago. I've posted it on Telegram and pinned it to the top, so everybody would take notice that went there. But this is from Newsbreak, and this is a newly leaked memo that's been exposed that targets anyone who isn't a Trump supporter, according to this investigator. So let's get into it. A leaked memo by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi directs the Justice Department and the FBI to compile a list of groups that may be labeled domestic terrorism organizations based on political views related to immigration, gender, and U.S. policy. The memo was obtained by independent investigative journalist Ken Klippenstein, who joins us to discuss how it expands on President Trump's NSPM 7 directive following the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which ordered a national strategy to investigate and disrupt groups the administration claims could incite political violence. One of the groups they cite, if you read the documents, is Antifa, quite often. But Bondi's effort targets not just the left, but anyone who isn't a Trump supporter. That's according to Klippenstein. That's what he says about this sweeping order, which identifies targets as entities expressing opposition to law and immigration enforcement. So, in other words, if you're against ICE and what they're doing, support for mass migration and open borders, radical gender ideology, or views described as anti-American, anti-capitalist, or anti-Christian, according to their definition. We talked about that yesterday with the Christian Zionists, as well as hostility towards traditional views on family, religion, and morality. Once again, defined by who? What they're trying to do is create a theocracy, but all defined by them in this new golden age, which is the Antichrist. It brings you to the false light of the Antichrist. That's what they're doing. Anyway, people who report extremists may be financially rewarded as well. And the FBI is reviewing records from the past 5 years, as well as the present. So they're going back 5 years and looking at everything, looking at anything that may come up as they scan it with AI. I told you yesterday, Facebook isn't going to allow you to opt out of their AI scanning anything you've ever typed, anything you've ever posted on Facebook has been fed into their AI training system. And don't think the FBI won't have access to it. Of course they will. How else are they going to go back 5 years in your social media? They're going to have access to all of Meta files, all of X's files, which I'm sure Elon Musk has already given them. Telegram, all of them are going to submit files. And it'll all be fed into this huge AI system. And it'll entail predictive policing as well. We've talked about that, just like the movie Minority Report. But I'm not going to cover this whole story. This interview is quite lengthy. I'll let you read it on your own. Once again, I will put the link up as always, but it's been on Telegram here for a few days. So that's why I say it's a good idea to subscribe to Don't Speak News here on Telegram, because I put a lot of stuff here, like the stories I've just been showing you, that I just don't get a chance to report on because there's so much going on at once. So I just wanted to make you aware that the censorship is coming because of this Bondi Beach false flag that they pulled off here over the weekend in Australia. And if people did die, well, then they died, but that's what they do. They don't care about sacrificing their lesser brethren, in quotation marks, as we talked about yesterday. They did it during World War II and the Holocaust, and they're doing it again now. And they also did it during the so-called October massacre in Israel a couple of years ago when this whole thing began between Gaza and the Israelis. And it's still going on today. So anyway, I'll put all the posts or all the links up on don'tspeaknews.com as always. And I always put them at the bottom of the articles right here, right underneath the video. So if you want links to the things that I report on, I always put them up here. Once in a while I forget, but not very often. I'm pretty good about putting all the links here on the website to the stories I report from. And if you want to navigate the website, it's real easy. I put these tabs up here. I may be revamping this soon. I'm not sure. But we'll cross that bridge another day. But I may be revamping the website and updating the look. We'll have to see. Because I've had this same one now for years. 5, 6 years at least. I think it's time for a change. Sometimes that's a good thing. I'll take a look at some new templates and see what I can come up with. But anyway, if you want to subscribe, contact me, click on this tab here. Don't Speak News at Proton Mail is how you get in touch. And then you can type in your email here, click on subscribe, and you'll be in. You'll be notified every time I put out a new video or a post. Channel support is right here. We are in need of your support as always. We're listener supported only. And so that tab is here and all the links to support us are underneath it. And then to find us around the internet, we are on Rumble, BitChute, Telegram, and on YouTube for now anyway. We'll see how much longer that lasts. And that's it. We've been taken down from everywhere else multiple times, so including YouTube twice. And that will be it for now. God bless. Take care. Johnny Storm. Don't Speak News.